So thank you so much for, again, joining us. My name is Jason, and we're going to just jump right into this panel. So the pandemic, so this thing happened, the pandemic happened, and it was pretty rough. And I think that one of the things that ended up happening, or in a sense ended up happening, is that it shot us theoretically into the future. That's sort of what people were saying. So we're always talking about things like digital, virtual, AI. Isabelle is not even here. This is an avatar of her, and she actually might leave at 1:30 because the avatar has to go to somewhere else in the metaverse. I'm actually being very serious. She might have to leave if we're still running long. And a core question that we have is, can we truly innovate? Can we truly innovate if our teams can't keep up? And does our workforce have the skills that are required to make innovation last in Canada? So that's the core question of our panel today. The people who are going to help us get to the bottom of it are on the stage right now. Laura Pearce is the Country Marketing Director at Google Canada. Isabelle Hudon is the President and CEO of the Business Development Bank of Canada. Pedro Barata is the Executive Director of the Future Skills Center. And Anna Serrano is the President and Vice-Chancellor of OCAD University. She is also like one of my very close friends. I just had to throw that in. That's why she's here. But has nothing to do with her being
We're
iconic.
not related.
Nothing to do with her being iconic.
Full transparency.
Full transparency. So my first question is for Laura. We are on Zoom. We are hybrid.
Or Hangouts.
Yes. We are on Zoom. We are in hybrid. AI seems to be everywhere. It feels innovative, but has the pandemic actually made Canadian companies more innovative?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of names on this short list up ahead. So up here, I think we should have the audience answer by a round of applause. Are we innovating here in Canada? Let's hear it. Yeah. I think a resounding yes. I mean, I think there's innovation. To say nothing of resilience. I think the word unprecedented maybe was the word of the year for many years. So I think all of those things have happened. And I think in Canada in particular, I'm sure all of you know, we're a very SMB-driven economy. In fact, 98% of businesses in Canada are SMBs, so that innovation had to happen in that space. And that's very challenging. They're undergoing an enormous amount of change, digitization, et cetera. And we at Google, we've been very focused on building the skills for the digital economy, but in an equitable and inclusive way. We have a couple of different programs that are part of what we call our Grow with Google programs. One of them is Shop Here, and this is really directly aimed at SMBs that are innovating. It is a program, Shop Here, powered by Google in partnership with Digital Main Street, and it is support to small businesses to help them digitize and get online during the pandemic. I'm really proud to share that 45,000 businesses have come online with us through that program since the pandemic started to today. I also read in a recent Globe and Mail article that 2 million businesses started during the pandemic. So I think that's a lot of innovation. So a really great start, and we are very committed to getting people the skills. But with that innovation comes a skill gap, as you talked about. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more here today.
I mean, you just touched upon the fact that 2 million businesses were formed during the pandemic. That's incredible. I didn't even know that stat. And that takes me to Isabelle's question. So my question to you is, you invest in businesses. You invest in businesses in Canada. What does innovation mean to BDC? And how do you invest in innovation in this country?
Okay, before I do answer this question, I think I'll comment on what Laura just said.
Yes.
I agree with Laura, and I think that this room here confirms the high level of innovation and the will to innovate. Though, we need to keep in mind that, first of all, we're a big country. We're the second largest country after Russia, but with not a lot of people. Population is pretty small compared to the size of our country and our land. So if we're doing great, and if we're 100% here convinced that innovation is part of our day-to-day, when we do compare ourselves to other countries, we're not doing that well on the level of investment in innovation. So I would invite all of you to bring your energy, your conviction, your will, and your know-how and your expertise outside of the typical innovators. They need, and we all need to understand what it does deliver and the difference that you are making in your day-to-day to create wealth and growth. So I wanted to add this comment to Laura's comment, because too often we think that because we're in a room with innovators that you do represent 100% of the population. And we do rank 18 on the list of the OECD on innovation and productivity. So there's a long way to go. Back to your question.
Yeah, so I mean, basically there's like a long way to go. Like that's.
We do invest in
Yes.
in SMEs. So what BDC does is we do financing. So we lend money to SMEs. We're fully dedicated to SMEs compared to other charter banks, and we had Mike at the mic earlier. We're fully dedicated to SMEs. We lend money, we provide advisory services to our clients, and we do invest. We're one of the top 3 VC players in Canada. So we invest in companies, and we invest in funds that shares the same thesis around some key sectors. What we see is a greater need of deploying capital in Canada by Canadian organizations. Yeah. And that's key to the success of all of you and many other innovators and other players, but it's also key so that when you grow and you become champions, that you stay Canadian champions. So it's probably the second or the first reason why BDC is so active into investing and lending money to innovators. We want to see you grow, we want to see you succeed, and we want to see you stay Canadian and delivering internationally, but staying as a Canadian company. And when we combine lending and investing at BDC, we're probably just a little bit over $4 billion invested in the technology sector and supporting probably over just a little bit less than 1,000 SMEs through our VC investments. So it's, and we're learning fast. Over last 5 years ago, we've launched a fund, Women in Tech, so a fund totally dedicated for women entrepreneurs, not solely in technology, but using technology at the center of their business model. 5 years down the road, the team came back and say, well, Isabelle, we've found enough opportunities to invest that $200 million. I think that we're ready for a second fund. And they came back with this idea of maybe a second fund with $300 million. And I said, well, why not $500 million? Like, why not going big and bigger for innovators, and especially female innovators? So that's only one example, but it's incredible the opportunities that are out there. And for all of you thinking of raising money, thinking of inviting investors into your businesses, you can look across the globe for those investors, but keep on thinking about Canadian investors.
Wow, I mean, that's actually a really good bridge into my next question, which is about a big focus on SME. It's not like SMEs are known for innovation, though. At least the workforces are. There's this really interesting thing where it seems like table stakes right now is you want to innovate, but how fast can we actually innovate if our teams constantly lag behind? You should see my team encounter Microsoft Teams. It's very difficult. It's not a very, you have a lot of trouble with that platform. So my question is for Pedro. It's a two-pronged question. How do we ensure that our employees don't lag too far behind the innovation that we try to do in this country? And then the second piece is not only that, in terms of our current workforce in Canada, it's newcomers. They're a huge part of the economy, a huge part of how we're going to be continuing to build this country. How do we ensure that they have the skills required to be competitive as well?
Obviously, as all of you already do in this room, you have to have the culture and the mindset around that risk-taking. You've got to create the space outside of the day-to-day and create the permission and the right spaces for that innovation to take place. And of course, you need the skills, which increasingly are cognitive and social and emotional skills when it comes to really driving that innovation. But all of that is to the service of a vision. And I think it's really important, especially thinking about SMEs that do drive our economy. What is the innovation ambition of any one organization? Because if that is not clear, you could easily end up where innovation is everything and everybody's working on innovation, or only the cool kids get to do innovation and it's not everybody else's business. And you don't want to end up stuck in in those polarities. At our organization, we work with skills development, training institutions, as well as employers. Labor across the country. We have over 200 pilots that represent people who want to reimagine how we do skills development and training in this country. But even within that ecosystem, it's very important that we clarify that most innovation is going to happen in the core adjacent space. And that's okay, because the challenge around reinventing skills development is not a challenge that only needs to touch 10% of people. It actually needs to be a Canada-wide challenge. Innovation needs to be everybody's business, and not everybody should be driving disruptive innovation. So having a vision which says core, adjacent, disruptive, there's a portfolio. I think that allows you to have an organizational strategy, a partnership strategy that creates the right mindset, space, and skills so that everybody along that continuum can see themselves be a part of it. I think on the newcomer side, newcomers already bring a mindset around innovation, and certainly when you think about the skills that are going to be required around change, adaptability, resilience, ability to work with people of different backgrounds, on the cognitive side, problem solving, critical thinking, lots of creativity. So we have to assume, and we're picking against high standards when it comes to newcomers, and we're about to open up the tap big time. And I think that the onus is not so much on newcomers to sort of figure all of this out. I think we as institutions have to do a much better job of changing how we orient ourselves to this growing pipeline of talent that's coming in, and very high talent. And I think about SMEs, and the hot topic on this panel, hot topic in our economy. If we think about that, alongside the newcomer pipeline also comes diversity, right? How prepared are SMEs across the border to actually create the kind of welcoming places, not just to hire somebody, but to actually retain them and make them feel welcome and make them feel like they can continue to grow. So we have a lot of work to do, crunchy work on the ground with SMEs to build the global competencies that SMEs are going to need to welcome the workforce of the 21st century, which increasingly is going to be a workforce from abroad with lots of inherent skills, but it's going to bring a diversity that is going to be really, really great for our country, but that we have to work hard on turning from diversity to inclusion in terms of our economy. And we have a lot of hard work to do on the SME side to make that happen.
Wow. I mean, so we're talking about the composition of our workforce. It's going to be very, very diverse, lots of different pipeline feeding this composition of the workforce, which takes me to my next question for Anna. You're the president and vice-chancellor of OCAD. We're talking about really important groups right now, and a very vital group are young people. University students, young people, are they ready? And are they in a position to successfully continually drive innovation in Canada?
Okay, so following Isabelle's lead, I'm going to answer your question by first answering another question. So, which is really to sort of situate my interest in OCAD University, because I'm a new president. I inherited this position during the pandemic, middle of pandemic, July 2020. But prior to that, I would say my entire career has been in the innovation space. So, having founded CFC Media Lab for a decade, we were inventing new experiences in digital networked media. Okay, so that was in 2007, before video was even on the web, before Flash was on the web. I don't even know if anyone here knows what Flash is. So we were already inventing products and services in the arts and cultural space for digital networked media delivery. And then subsequent to that, we partnered with Google to create the first media and entertainment technology accelerator. And then subsequent to that, we then opened up the first feminist business accelerator. So the idea of innovation has always been a key driver of my career. And as we were building out these accelerators, it dawned on me, you know what? This is all going well. What I need to start focusing on is the pipeline for this. So OCAD University became the most interesting pipeline that I could possibly imagine driving the innovation space in Canada. Because you've got creative problem solvers, interdisciplinary thinkers and practitioners, folks who are forced to take critique on a daily basis, because the critiquing your work, your practices is part of the core of an art education, art and design education. So they have to learn how to take in feedback, be able to absorb that, feed it back. Our entire student population is 60% diverse. We've got 28% international students from all around the world. So this was basically a petri dish of talent that we needed to. Petri dish is probably a bad.
We have this image in our head
I'm
now.
sorry. A smorgasbord, is that better? This is an incredible community, because that's what we're trying. That's what Pedro is also trying to underscore, is that it's not just how do we activate the talent to deliver productivity, but it's really how do we activate them so that their sense of belonging becomes the driver through which invention and innovation and wealth generation becomes the core value proposition for Canada, right? And so I think, to answer your question, sorry, long-winded, we are ready. The young people are ready to take this on. The key thing is, are institutions ready to open their doors for them? And so that means, everything from creating mechanisms for belonging, all the way to creating matrixed organizations that allow them to operate in a kind of interdisciplinary way, as well as policies that provide agency. Because it's all, young people are much more attuned to being able to deliver through their own sense of agency than necessarily being told what to do. Not that they can, I'm not suggesting that there's no room for hierarchy, but it's a different form of hierarchy that now young people are looking for. One that allows them to have a sense of agency, have a sense of belonging, and have a sense of the ability to invent things through that process.
Wow.
Can I react?
Yeah.
I'm asking, just being polite.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you've just shared. When I joined BDC, we launched a strat review, getting out of the pandemic. Nothing was broken from a BDC perspective, but we knew that we would not come back to the world pre-pandemic. So it was the right timing to think about what could we do better, differently, less, or whatever. And fast forward, 8 months after we've renewed the strategy, the board approved it, and we had a long list of potential actions. And I had to debate with myself, where do I put this innovation into the organization? Do I spread across the organization those innovative ideas, and I give it to each leader to figure it out how to do it and when to do it, or do I create a hub? Mm-hmm. And I went for the second option, and then all my senior leaders said, well, why? And I could have done it, and it's my turf, and it's your turf. Like you can imagine the debate. And we're not like a big organization, but we're a bank. So a little bit more conservative, and 3,000 employees. And I stayed with my idea, and I kept my idea of creating that hub so that we could develop different ways of doing things. And funny enough, we staffed that hub 90% of the employees working into those incubators are from within, but we've posted roles internally and externally. But 90% of the people that we've hired were coming from BDC. And overnight, because they were into a hub, innovation hub, incubators, they've accepted to change how they do things. It's almost because they were allowed to say and think differently. It changed their mental posture. So it's not to retrain people from A to Z, but it's to give that space of, it's okay to try, doesn't work, you move on and you say, well, key learnings. And I'm not all about failures, I'm more about 100% success and half success. I don't like to promote failure, but I guess a half success is close to a failure.
So this is actually, that takes me to my next question, which is for Laura, because obviously it sounds like there's an innovation mandate coming from the top, and it's going and you're spreading it across the organization. But then there's this idea of sometimes me even asking a member of my team to use a new tool is very, very hard. People just don't want to do it. So I guess my question is for Laura. Both businesses and employees have a role to play in terms of upskilling, reskilling, keeping up with innovation. How do we ensure that employees and bosses, employees, leadership, how do we ensure that they continue to work together to be successful?
Yeah, and I think really interesting what Anna and both Pedro said around this willingness to take on new things, and that not everything starts with sort of a traditional path. And what you've also said that if you change people's circumstance, they change how they show up. So I think we, as I talked about, we're very invested in this the concept of being an equitable and inclusive digital economy, because it is true that digital skills are table stakes. I will just share, I have a master's degree in French literature, but everyone knows that's exactly how you get a job in tech. But this spirit of continuous learning has to be present across, and it was when I was growing up, and even more so today, that there are different skills, and you talked a little bit about newcomers and how important it is for them to be able to come to a place like Canada and get the right skills. So our responsibility for the employer side is to give them opportunities to upskill, and that's what our digital career. Loud, but oh, there I am, I'm back. That's what our digital career certificates are all about. And actually, very interestingly, and I actually just got this email while I was sitting there, but the #1 search around how do I become in 2022 on Google was how do I become a data analyst? I bet you didn't expect that.
Wow.
So, people are really thinking about how to either change a career or start a career in different fields. Our Google career certificates, they cover topics from data analytics, UX design, IT support, project management, digital marketing with a cameo for me. And they are all courses that can be done in under 6 months online. So then it empowers employers to give people those opportunities to take those courses. We also partner with a number of organizations to help people in underprivileged and underrepresented communities get access to those courses, notably through NPower, where we give scholarships. And about 76% of the people that NPower gives scholarships to are from underrepresented communities. But also as employers, so the other side of it is it's nice, Google, you can create these certificates, but we need people to hire these people. So we also have a program called Talent Match, and as the speaker earlier said, I have an ask. So my ask is we have Talent Match is an employer consortium. We have about 20 employers in there, including Unilever, Shopify, Mosaic, but we need more. And the idea is we help them get the skills, or you do through your organization, or NPower does through the work that they do, and then you join this consortium and we help you find those people with those skills and give you a more diverse and equitable workforce. So that's a really important goal for us, and we're working with employers across the country to do it.
I mean, so that takes me to my next question, which is obviously, look, I want to get better at my job. I want to get better at my job. I would love to learn how to use Google search. So there's this thing where you're I want to get better at my job.
There's a box.
There's all kinds of stuff that I want to do, skills, reskilling. I would love more skills. And this is my question for Isabelle. AI is here. So why do I need skills? So like my question is, the disruption that this technology will do in terms of how we're going to have to interact with it, what will we all mean as we enter an environment where this technology will be integrated into almost every single part of our existence? My question is, it's not only that innovation is happening super fast, it's just like it's compounding. It's like it's so unbelievably quick. So my question is, in an environment like that, what can I do as someone who has a job, and what can entrepreneurs do to not disappear and not be sort of left behind?
I thought your question was for Laura and I, how we can help you use Google search. And I would say that for that you don't need AI. But back to your question, I find it like fantastic, and I'm a little bit worried about the pace and how quick and fast things are changing. And of course with AI, but also for many other reasons. Why I find it fantastic? Because I love change, and I'm totally comfortable outside of my comfort zone. So it doesn't scare me to see the pace of the change. But where I'm just a little bit worried is when we look at SMEs, and SMEs are innovators, but at the same time, they're not investing enough into innovation. So the will is there, but probably, and coming out of the pandemic, our numbers are showing, because we do survey our clients, numbers are showing that entrepreneurs will slow down the investment in new projects. Yeah. So in new projects, we can read in between the lines, innovation. So they will keep on doing things that they are comfortable doing and what they know to do. But the new things, they're now parking it or putting it in the freezer and say, we'll wait until to see how the environment is unfolding. So the pace will not change, or the pace will keep on being a fast one. And at the same time, we see that for the next 12 to 18 months, entrepreneurs are saying, we will slow down our investments. So there's a message here where maybe quiet times or more quiet times.
Yes.
Is probably the best time to invest and to speed up investments. Exactly what we went through the pandemic. Yeah. It was quiet for many businesses, but as Laura said, the pickup on investing into digital tools, they had no other choice than to bring digital tools into their process. I hope this feel of urgency will stay among the SMEs ecosystem to keep on investing, so that once really out of the pandemic years, well, we're not going to be 18 on the OECD list of productivity innovation, but probably 12, and not why in the top 10.
Wow. I mean, that takes me to my final question for all of you. This is the lightning round. It's very controversial, so I'm joking, it's not. So basically we're talking about trends in innovation, so it's a two-pronged question. For each of you, what is a trend that you're seeing at this pace, which is incredibly rapid? What is a trend that you're seeing in innovation that you love? That you're just like, man, it is something that everyone in this room should probably pay attention to. It's gonna change your business. And on the flip side of that, on the opposite end of the signal, what is a trend that is keeping you up at night?
All right, let me try and combine those two. I look at what's happening down south of the border and what the United States has done in terms of their policy of investment around a sustainable future, and how critical that's going to be for our existential reality, but also for the economics down south, and frankly for us to ride on those coattails. And I listened to the strategy, for example, from Minister Champagne about you're not going to be able to compete with the US on the sheer magnitude of the investment. But because our economies are so tied together, there is a supply chain issue around a sustainable economy where we've got to find those spots, right, where we can ride on those coattails and bring unique innovation and value. That piece excites me because there is our existential, our whole sustainability as a planet is at stake, and it's good to see that we, from a public policy perspective, and with everybody rallying, including the business community, there are significant investments, and we're making this a priority. What worries me, and what obviously will keep us all up at night, is that our economy is not like the United States economy, because 90% of our jobs are in SMEs. How much green literacy is there among the small business community? Is there even an innate or a starting knowledge or a starting practice about how SMEs are going to contribute to building more sustainable futures, how their business model can change to tie into supply chains from our largest employers to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that will emerge. That work, I mean, the leadership around building a more sustainable future is coming from the top, but the solutions are very much going to have to come from the bottom. And that work, for example, where you're describing around building consortiums, where the larger businesses can anchor the kind of change that small, medium enterprises can tie themselves into, can learn from, can become part of an ecosystem of shared wealth generation. That's the solution. But we're a long ways away from thinking about that at a Canada-wide scale, and the American strategy is coming really fast.
Wow. Anna.
So to, again, reflect on Pedro's comments, the trend that I would like to posit here that is starting to emerge, which you alluded to in your last remarks, but also that Laura has talked about, is what I call collective innovation. So I think we need to move beyond notions of individual innovation to notions of collective forms of innovation that have an ecosystem type approach. And you're saying that you're scared you don't see it. I'm saying that I actually see it. I do see it happening. I see it in the young talent because, basically innovation now is a survival game. So, and you could argue that the pandemic showed us what we can do when we're faced with survival issues, And I think a lot of our young people actually have already embedded that in the way they think about the world. That they're now in survival mode, not in a pessimistic kind of frame, but really in a thoughtful, mindful, realistic manner, where they're like, the world is broken. We need to start to fix things. And the way we used to fix things isn't working. We need new ways to fix things, and we need to do it together. So this notion of collective innovation is starting to emerge. Just as an example, Future Skills Canada, for example, helped invest in a project we have at OCAD, which is a platform cooperative. So this is Shopify, but a co-op for emerging artists and designers, for creative entrepreneurs who are interested in selling their art and design and services in a kind of collective, cooperative manner. We're in the early stages of this, so we haven't found all the answers, but there is that kind of momentum around new forms of collective and cooperative innovation. And what keeps me up at night is the fact that the pace of change is so fast in regards to AI, particularly, that the kind that we and so there's AI, but also the regulatory environment trying to keep up with AI. That we need to move a lot faster around that stuff.
Wow, Isabelle.
So when the pandemic started, I was in Paris. And I remember telling myself, I hope it will last long enough so that we will remember not to shift back to how we did things before. Not that I was wishing for the pandemic to last 3 years. It was in month 2 or 3. That trend of survival mode, that's what I would like us to keep into our day-to-day. What's keeping me up at night is I do feel that we're slightly going back to a comfort zone where survival mode is not the non-negotiable way and posture to adopt, and I'm just a little bit worried that we're setting back and getting comfortable again.
Laura?
Okay, well, I think you'd probably all be disappointed if I didn't say AI, so I'm going to say AI. And I think this is a funny luncheon. We've had someone talk about Terminator and Sesame Street all in one go, so thank you, AI. So I think, listen, AI is a really profound innovation that is going to impact how we do so many things. Yes, it can help you write an email or many other things, a poem, a song, and otherwise. But it can also help doctors detect cancer and other diseases earlier than they ever have before. It can help us analyze, vast amounts of data that we could never imagine analyzing, stuff like astrological data or disease, climate change, those things. So I think it is profound. And I think that it is also something that keeps people up at night, and I'll openly acknowledge that. And I think that's a reason that we at Google microphone are really taking time. And AI is something that Google's been organizing around for at least 6 years now. It's here in my Pixel phone doing stuff like Magic Eraser and Live Translate. Come and see me for a demo later if you like. But it's also going to fundamentally change the way we do things. And so we are taking a measured and balanced approach and focused on safety and security and all the things that we know matter to you about how you interact with digital tools. So I think that, that's important. We have released BARD, which is our experimental language AI system in the US and the UK for public use. I promise, coming soon. I'm not actually in charge, if you might not want to know, but I do think it is coming soon to Canada. But before I came, I asked it, what are 3 great things about Canadian business today in 2023? And I'll tell you very quickly, the first, we have a strong economy, low unemployment, and a great standard of living. So that's great, and we're helping to all collectively make that better. We have a skilled workforce, and we've been talking a lot about upskilling them even more. And lastly, and I promise I didn't prompt, we are a global leader in innovation. So cheers to that. And they also said we're very welcoming, so I felt good about that. So that's how I'll end my talk about AI.
Amazing.
For now.
Laura, Isabelle, Anna, Pedro, thank you so much. Dessert is coming now, and then we're going to be announcing the winners in about 5 minutes, but thanks again.